Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of New York Giants Football Talk, Season 3, Episode 4. Already Episode 4 this year, but preseason Game 1 success. We'll get into that in a moment. But here, as always, with me, my co-host, my brother from another, Mr. Paul Rosen. How we doing tonight, Paul?
Great. Good evening, Kenny K. Always a pleasure to be with you every Giants show. And of course, hey, a win is even more icing on the cake. So it'll be exciting to talk about what we went through
Yeah.
on Saturday afternoon.
Hopefully, no internet issues. Had to have the internet guy come and check on things. I was having a lot of issues, so we'll hopefully get through this without any interruptions. Knock on wood. I'll knock on the head in place of wood. But yeah, might as well get right into it. There's Mark Calderio saying hello. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Mark.
We're going to work on it. You're going to, like I just said, Mark. Let's see what the internet holds up tonight. I get a little special show with you because you were at training camp, and we'll do a little special show with you, Mark, when we get this internet 100% accurate here. So good to see you, my friend. Very good week one. Saw a lot of good things, but week one was very special too in the facts of Paul and his wife Luby going to visit their daughter and grandkids, and Paul. We're going to do a recap, but you got a special little recap before we get started. So, and they got pictures to follow, but why don't you explain how special the preseason week one game was for you?
Thanks, Kenny. I'll try and make it as quickly as possible, but it was a very enjoyable sort of vacation. Our daughter lives up in Buffalo area, and we have three grandsons, and two of them had never been to a football game before, and they were going to go. So when they invited us to come up and go to the game, as many of you may know, and you've heard me talk, uh, I know John Mara for many years. I work with him. I know him for well over 40 years. We've communicated many times over the years. In any event, I wrote to him uh, and I asked specifically if they could arrange the New York Giants for us to get sideline passes for the pregame and to make it really special for my grandsons who are 7. George is 7 and Marlo is 5, to go and watch the practices of the team right up close right before the game. So the Friday morning before the Saturday of the game last week, I get a call from John's assistant, Nicole, who explained what was going to happen. They had the passes ready for us, and I was able to download them and all set for Saturday morning to get to the stadium. Now, my son-in-law is a detective with the Buffalo area police, so we drove there, and traffic, especially going into stadiums, and they had a full house for the first game. Quite honestly, we were able to park literally right next to where all the cops were working the traffic. So the literally 5 seconds from the stadium, that was perfect. And I have to say, it was probably the hottest game I've ever been to. The weather, the sun was, of course, Buffalo being crazy cold in the winter. Well, in the summer, it gets just as hot as the rest of the country. And it was absolutely burning out there. But we got to the stadium, and I'm going to show you. We were able to get these are the sideline passes that we were issued to each of us. There were 7 of us, including my 2 grandsons, our 2 grandsons, and we got down onto the field and we watched the players, and it was fabulous for them. They were right up close. We had a big sign that I know Kenny has seen in the pictures that basically said that they had their pictures, their photos, and our first game. So the players saw that. Some of the other people saw that, and they shouted out to us. Well, um, at some point, right before the players came out, I look to my left, and who's standing literally right in front of me? Brian Dable. And I go over, "Hey, coach," shook his hand. "Have a great game. Have a great season." That was really fantastic. Of course, many of you guys know that Brian coached up in Buffalo for many years along, and Joe Shane was the assistant general manager up in Buffalo. So he had a lot of connections that he was saying hello to. Uh, we got to the seats after we finally finished the sideline, being able to be on the sideline. Oh, I just want to mention, standing next to us was Theo Johnson's father, who was very, very nice. I had about a 10-15 minute conversation with him. I gave him our card, our K&K Sports Show card, and we talked a little bit about Theo, the Giants. Uh, Matter of fact, he was telling me how Theo spoke so highly of the Giants organization and what they do for him and all the players. So that was amazing to hear the feedback compared to, I won't mention the other team that he said to me about what they don't do compared to what the Giant organization does. So we got to the seats, and obviously the crowd was pro Buffalo, but a lot of Giant fans. We travel very well. So there were a lot of Giants fans in the stands, and we wound up staying only a half because, as I said, it was so hot and the two kids were almost overheated. So we got to see a good first half. We'll get into the recap. Kenny, we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll get into the play of some of the rookies, veterans. But overall, it was just a fabulous experience, and one that I certainly hope they don't forget, and I certainly will never forget.
Let's absolutely. I know I got some pictures and videos from Paul. We'll prove next week what he said is true. I'll get those downloaded and we'll get them on next week's show. I'll have a little slideshow for everybody. But we do have a bunch of people saying hello. First and foremost, your wife Luby. We had time of our lives, and I hope our grandsons are never going to forget their first game. That was definitely an experience that I know you and Paul won't forget neither. So definitely don't think they will forget that. David Burns watching from Cedar Hill, Texas, saying hello. Kurt Valenti, our co-host and great friend, saying what's up, boys. Mark Calderio saying hello. Couple comments there. Roy Osborne saying, "Hey, Kenny and Paul, sounded like you had a pretty good time other than the heat." Now the comments are good friend Keith Brugman from the Denver Bronco Roundup. I'll be on later with Keith, 10 o'clock Eastern time, talking Broncos. Kurt, Roy, everybody else out there, you don't have to be a Bronco fan. Come check us out. We're going to talk about the Broncos game a little later. He said the quarterback that should be starting was throwing darts. We're going to get into that in a couple of minutes. And David saying, what a game Jackson Dart had throwing his first touchdown against the Bills. And Kurt wants to know, Paul, did you see anybody get thrown through a table with the Bills Mafia?
You know what? We walked a little through the parking lot, but not really to the extent where there was a lot of shenanigans going on. I will say this. The game was an afternoon game, and they called it Kids Day. So I would say 90% of the people who were there were families with little kids like ours. So there weren't a lot of crazy shenanigan type of wild things that we normally associate Bills Mafia with. But I didn't see any people throwing through tables, but I'm sure once the regular season begins, the shenanigans will begin.
Oh, they don't care if it's kids. It could be dogs. They don't care. They'll throw them through a table. Your grandsons are 5 and 7. They're going to be thrown through a table in the future, Bill fans. It's going to happen. Don't worry. And Kurt wants to know, Paul, you're on the spot right now. If you can see one more championship, Mets World Series, Notre Dame National Champions, Giants Super Bowl, Knicks win NBA title, which one is it? Remember what kind of show you're on?
I know. Paul? Yeah. Kurt, I think we've sort of had that kind of question a few times on K&K, but this is going to shock you, Kenny. I know we're on Giant show. I'm going to say It's crazy as I'm going to say this. I'm going to say the New York Knickerbocker championship. It has been so long, over 50 years. I want to see another Knicks championship. I really do. Believe me. Do I want to see a Mets and Giants and Notre Dame? Yes, but it's been too long for our Knickerbockers. So I want to see a Knicks championship.
David's saying the same, but you know what? For my Giant fans out there, I gotta say Giants. We're a Giants show. Now,
I
if this
know.
was the Knicks show, I might
I
have a
know.
different
I
opinion. But
know.
because it's a Giants show, my fellow Giant fans, I want to see another Super Bowl. Let's go. Uh, all right. So that was Paul's special recap. I'll give you a short little recap of what I saw uh, throughout the game. I watched it the other day. Uh, First team offense looked solid. Russell Wilson didn't do anything. Threw some short passes. He looked okay. He looked like the veteran. He was in for a couple series. Tyrone Tracy, the ones they did okay on offense. No Malik Neighbors, no Darius Slayton. So to do what they did, offensive line solid. It could just go through up and down the line with the offensive line from uh, John Michael Schmitz to the guards to the tackles, and we're going to get into the rookies. Jackson Dart comes in, throws his first touchdown to fellow Denver Bronco, little Jordan Humphrey, and I know Kurt and all Bronco fans in our chat love that name. Russell Wilson's favorite target. So it looks like they brought little Jordan Humphrey over. Curious to see if he makes the team. We're going to get into some players in a few minutes. On the defensive side of the ball, hey, right from the get-go again, you recap. You don't want to recap the third and fourth, string guys, but the first string guys, Abdul Carter was all that. The pass rush is legit. It's going to be nightmarish for some teams facing us. And the linebackers, Okereke, McFadden were solid. Secondary was okay. There were some ups and downs, but overall, for preseason game one, Paul, I think we're ahead of schedule. And I mean by ahead of schedule in chat is not Super Bowl ahead of schedule, but ahead of schedule meaning competitive. And that's what we want as Giant fans. Maybe we can win. Just talking to Kurt today, maybe we can win 8, 9, maybe 10 games if we're lucky. Right now, we're ahead of schedule. So right now, some people got us winning 2 games. I think we're on a schedule to win right now 7 or 8 games. Week 2 comes up now. Maybe we'll get a little higher. But I like what I saw. I liked a lot of what I saw, Paul. And 4 quarterbacks went in. 3 of them got touchdowns, and that was Winston and DeVito, and of course our rookie Jackson Dart. So I think Jackson Dart is ahead of schedule, and that's very important. But that was just a short. It's hard to do like a recap on preseason because there's so many players to talk about. But overall, as a team, and you were there, you were probably happy what you saw in the first half. I was definitely happy what I saw of the starters, and it's something to look forward to this week in practices with the Jets. And week 2 preseason is a very important week. So I liked what I saw, Paul. I think we're a little ahead of schedule, and that's very important. And let's continue that momentum going into this week and get this team some confidence. So one more comment, a couple more comments real quick. That a baby, Kurt saying about the Knicks. Paul agrees. Mark agrees Knicks, and he said Hyatt didn't play either. Hyatt, we're going to get into that, Mark, in a minute. And David, before we get into our next little thing, Paul, David Burns saying he thinks the Giants have a better wide receiver room that will utilize skill set best. Hyatt, Neighbors, Slayton are all low, 4.3 time guys, much faster than any of the receivers he's had in the past two teams. Oh, he's talking about Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay, Russell Wilson. Yep, I agree. I think Russell Wilson's in for a nice solid year, Paul. But I'll go to you first. You were at the game. You were there for the first half. I know you could probably pick at least one standout that you saw in the first half. And who's your number one standout that you want to go talk about?
You know what? I'll give you the low-hanging fruit, because we'll talk about that in the rookies. But I'm going to go offensive line, the whole offensive line, specifically Bo. We'll get into that with the rookies, but I believe the Bills had 57. The Giants, excuse me, had 57 dropbacks passing. They didn't allow a sack. When's the last time the Giants had that many pass attempts and there were no sacks allowed? On the first preseason game, when they're still working through a lot of the stuff. So the idea that the offensive line came through and did not allow one sack is just amazing.
Yeah, I like it. I like that, Paul, and I definitely like that pick. I'll stick with the offensive side and a guy that played a lot of the game, and that's was our practice squad running back last year, Turbo Miller. Dante Turbo Miller had a game, and and running backs better watch out. I'm not saying he's going to take Tyrone Tracy's job, or Cam Scatterboo's banged up, but Devin Singletary, Eric Gray, better watch out because Turbo Miller's coming. And Turbo Miller, what makes him dangerous, Paul, in my opinion, is his pass catching ability with his speed. Like, he can turn the corner on those screen passes.
Mm-hmm.
Those little screen passes, he was getting 10, 15 yards. He had some runs. His running was average. I'm not going to say it was above average. His rushing was average, but his receiving skills stood out to me by far in this game over anybody else, and something to look forward to in these next two preseason games if that continues with Turbo
Yeah,
Miller.
what they need to do, is get him out in space, and they get the ball to him in space. He is dangerous. He's quicker than instant coffee. I'll tell you, he was fast on Saturday afternoon. So yeah, totally agree.
Mark has one. I'll see if you pick it. If you don't pick it, I'll read Mark's out loud. I'll let you go first, though, Paul.
I'm gonna go with we'll talk about him a little more again. Montrell Washington. Again,
that's who Mark
okay,
had, by the way,
okay,
so.
Mark. Great minds think alike. We'll get into it a little bit. We have a segment coming up with how all the rookies, both drafted and undrafted, but he's a guy that obviously he had a great game. So we'll talk about him in a little bit, Mark. But thank you.
Yeah, I like Montrell Washington. For me, another standout was the second half. I know you weren't there for the second half, but it's a guy who's got a chance of making this team in more of a special teamer, but he can contribute in the wide receiver room. Gunnar Olszewski had a nice little game in the second half. Paul, I know you left, but he caught a touchdown pass from Jameis Winston. Nice catch in the end zone, little diving catch, and got open on a couple plays as well. So I'm curious to see how they utilize him in the next two preseason games. But we all know he came over a couple years ago and was our punt returner, and then he was hurt last year. So he's got a chance. He's got a chance, and he stood out to me in the second half of the Giants game. Definitely a connection with Jameis Winston for sure.
Okay. I'll just quickly say, lastly, obviously we haven't mentioned Jackson Dart, but we'll get into that with the rookies roundup that we'll do shortly.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anybody else. I mean, most of the standouts were the rookies. So Keith wants to know, how about that Jameis head fake?
Yeah,
it was funny. I guess the quarterbacks for me stood out. Jameis Winston looked good. Tommy DeVito looked good. It's a good problem to have, is to have a lot of good quarterbacks that are ready to go. So they all, like I said, Tommy DeVito, Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart, all led touchdown drives. So the quarterbacks, you mentioned the offensive line. I'll mention the quarterbacks stood out to me. They all did well.
Yes.
So that was good. That was good to see. you have anybody else you want to mention, Paul, before we
No,
get into the
I
rookies?
think if we go to defense, we can talk a little bit about the defensive standouts.
Okay. Do you want to do the? Is that where you want to go? You want to go
Yeah.
defense? Okay. Yeah. Pass it to you.
Um, Obviously there's that low-hanging fruit. We'll get into him again in a little bit. You mentioned him earlier, but Micah McFadden, I thought, had a pretty good couple of series. He had a big stop on one of the running backs, put put him down flat on his back, and he had another tackle or so. So I think McFadden overall is going to have a really, really good year if he can stay healthy, which is another issue that he's had in the past. But I think he can be a real solid player with the type of defense that the Giants are going to have this year, holding up the linebacker position.
Yeah, I think Micah had a good game. Uh, I think as far as a lot of people say, uh, the secondary, Banks did bad, but I don't think he did terrible. He's got some things to improve on, but I would say Paulson Adebo, because you didn't hear his name at all in the whole. If you don't hear a cornerback's name, he stands out to
Yeah.
me. So Paulson Adebo's name wasn't mentioned at all, so he stood out to me, and that would be my standout on defense before we get into our rookies,
Okay.
our star-studded rookie room.
Yeah. And the only other defensive player I'll mention, DJ Davidson, who after drafting Darius Alexander and Chapman, has been Elijah Chapman has been played up in training camp. He's been sort of buried in the back of the defensive line, and he came up with a sack on Saturday afternoon. So that's a big play for him, and certainly he could, like we talk about competition in the quarterback room, a lot of competition up front with a lot of those interior defensive linemen. So that's good to see him coming through.
Let's hit this question from Keith. It's a good one. It's about the defense, Paul. Expectations for Kayvon Thibodeau this year, moving up or moving down?
Definitely moving up. We'll get into Abdul, but Abdul Carter is going to affect the whole defense in a very, very positive fashion. They're going to have to watch where this kid is every single play that he's on the field. And what does that mean? It means you can't double team everybody. So if they double team him, Dexter's going to be around, Brian Burns, and also Kayvon. And I expect Kayvon, especially with his fifth-year option, he's going to have a tremendous season. And I think he's hungry. He, from what they've said, he's really, really come in stronger, faster, and I think he senses that it's his time to really make a mark as a football player in this league. So I think he's going to have an outstanding year, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more, and I look forward to Kayvon Thibodeau this year. And do not, Joe Shane, if you're listening, do not listen to trade offers for Kayvon Thibodeau. This defensive front could be historically special, and you don't want to mess with it if you don't have to. So don't mess with it now. Nobody's going anywhere right now. We're under contract. We're under the rookie contracts. You got something special right now, Joe Shane. Keep it. Don't listen to all that media garbage that they're going to trade Kayvon for a second round pick. No, this could be a special defensive front, and I'm so excited to see them in week one against the Commanders and going forward in the regular season. So very excited. Keep it as is.
You know what I read, Kenny, earlier today? Brian Burns and Dexter are 27 years old. Everyone else is younger. Oh, and Goldston is 27. So you have guys that are from 21, 22 years old. The oldest is 27. You talk about building a defense together with a core group of young players. You can't get any better than that. And
No.
I think that's going to be the strong element of the Giant defense this year, and hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years.
I agree. I totally agree. All right, Paul. So we did our defensive standouts. Do we want to get the rookies or players who have to step up
No,
first?
let's
Which
go
way do you
right
want
to
to
the
go?
rookies because we have a lot of good
Yeah,
things
we
to
left the
talk
rookies
about.
out. Well, we're on the defense. Let's stick with the defense
Okay.
right now. Since we're on talking defense. So you were there. I want to get right into Abdul
Yeah.
Carter. He only played 6 plays, Paul. 3 rushing plays, 3 passing
Yeah.
plays. And for those who don't know, go watch on YouTube. There's all highlights. His 3 passing plays were against Dawkins, who's a Pro Bowl tackle for the Bills. Those 3 pass plays he was in, he got to the quarterback. Pressured the 3 pressures on 3 pass plays against an all-pro tackle. Impressive. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, Paul. You
Yeah.
saw how fast he was in person. I can imagine how it was in person as opposed to on what I saw on TV.
We were fortunately on that end of the field, and the Bills had the ball and they were driving away from us. So we were right underneath the goalpost, about row 19 in the lower section. I had a perfect view of the Giant defense, and let me tell you something, Kenny and everybody out there, this kid is better than even advertised. That basically that first play, he was within a whisker of getting Trubisky. Basically, his first play as a Giant, he almost had the sack. If Trubisky didn't sidestep him a second later, he would have had the sack. This kid is fast, like you said, Kenny. He had 2 plays that he was past Dion Dawkins, a Pro Bowl player. So the Giants are. I can't be happy enough to say this kid is going to make the Giant defense this year. That's how worried that the Giants offensive coordinators are going to have to worry about this kid every single time he's out there.
Absolutely love it. And Pro Bowler, like you said, in Dawkins. And it's almost like if you watched him, like I watched him on TV and watched the highlights later on, it's almost like he was playing like the quarterback was wearing the red jersey. It almost looks like he could have sacked him if he wanted to, but he kind of, like, as fast as he was, it almost looks like he even held up at the end there to not, hit the quarterback hard because it's preseason.
Yeah.
And that's what it almost looked like. So again, super excited about Abdul Carter. Can't say enough good things about him. And we can go on for a 3-hour show and just talk Abdul Carter, but we do have some other rookies that we want to get into. I'm going to flip it over to our star on the offense, and that's Mr. Jackson Dart. And you're going to go first a lot because you were there, Paul. So you're going to get first crack at what you saw from Jackson Dart.
All right.
Of course, he had that touchdown to little Jordan Humphreys, but I'm going to pass it.
So thanks, Kenny. So again, he came in and they were moving away from us. And Kenny, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say this. How many times have we seen Giants bring in a play, bring in a couple of changes in the personnel, and they get up to the line of scrimmage, and now it's 10 seconds, 8 seconds, and the play calling, and now it's like 2-3 seconds, and they're like, come on, get the play off. That struck me when Jackson Dart came in. This kid had them in the huddle, had them out of the huddle. I kept looking at the play clock, and I'm like, 16 seconds, 18 seconds. And I'm saying to myself, wow, what a change. What an unbelievable feeling of having a play run where this kid is getting them in and out, onto the line, setting them, making the call, and completing a play where there was maybe 10 or 8 seconds left on the play clock. It was so refreshing to see. So I know one of the things that Coach Dable used, he had 4 words to describe Jackson Dart. He used efficient. That might have been one of the things. And obviously, I didn't know anything about his his synopsis and his overview of Jackson until I read it the next day. His arm strength. Let me tell you, if there's any doubt about his arm strength, that was about as good a pass as you're going to make to Lil Jordan Humphrey for the touchdown. Beautiful, right over the defensive back's head, right into his arms. He cradled the ball, dropped down, touchdown. First touchdown of his Giants career. Amazing. Pressure. He went up against basically the first and second team defenders on the Bills in his early series. He handled the pressure so well, stood right in the pocket, was able to move a little bit if he had to, and I think he led the Giants in rushing with 24 yards. He had one nice long run. Nimble, everything that we saw down in Ole Miss, this is who he was. He threw one pass, I think it was to Montel Washington. Remember how frustrating we were with Daniel Jones, where he'd keep looking at the receiver, and he wouldn't lead the receiver, and it seemed like the ball was either batted away or behind the he led Washington and perfect pass, and Washington dove, caught the ball right off the ground. Perfect pass. The other three things that Dable said that I agree with: he was aggressive, he was confident, very, very confident as far as I'm concerned, and effective. Clearly, it's funny. The Giants were backed up near the goal line on that one drive, and I turned to Luby and I said, "You know what? This should be a good time for a screen pass." So Turbo was in there, Miller. They didn't run. They ran a short inside counter with Turbo. The next play, they called the screen. He dropped it right over the defensive lineman, and Turbo went for, I think, 18 yards. So he felt the rush. He was able to drop it over perfectly. And listen, I don't know if they I don't want to use the word dummy down, but if they shortened the playbook, but whatever they used for the game on Saturday, he was able to do everything the Giants wanted him to do, and he played a phenomenal game. I mean, I read a couple of things. He had the highest rookie quarterback rating, and out of all the rookies, and I know Shedeur Sanders played well, Cam Ward played well, the kid from the Saints played very well. But listen, there's nothing that I can say badly about what Jackson Dart did on Saturday afternoon.
Sorry, I was on mute there for a second. I totally agree. And what I love about Jackson Dart and these rookies, it looks like they're having fun while they're learning more of the game at a different level. You know, you get a lot of rookies that look like they're starstruck when playing in big market like New York. Jackson Dart looks like he can handle the media. He looks like he can definitely handle live play, live gameplay. Abdul Carter obviously can handle it. You know, those are our top two picks, and it just going down the line. And we're going to get into a couple of the other guys in a second. This draft class looks special, and it looks like they're having tons of fun. It's not Bueller, and that's how I felt with Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
It felt vanilla and boring. I think this is going to be a special class when it's all said and done. And the future looks bright, and you nailed it. Like the screen pass, the touch he has on his passes, short and deep. Keep developing him, play him behind the veteran, learning behind All-Pro and Jameis Winston, learning behind All-Pro Russell Wilson, and a seasoned vet like Jameis Winston's is going to help him week in and week out. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for Jackson Dart. Very excited. equally as excited about Jackson Dart as Abdul Carter.
Nice.
So David is saying, so proud of Dart's quarterback debut on national TV. He has what it takes and proved just that.
Very good.
And I like that. I like that. I want to move on to another guy on offense. We're going to skip Cam Scatterbo. Can't talk about him. He's hurt. He's recovering. I wish I could have seen him play a little bit, but speedy recovery. Cam Scatterbo. Hopefully he can get out there a little bit this week. But get healthy. That hamstring can be tricky. So get healthy. I want to talk about so far a 5th round gem, and that's another Big Ten guy. Offensive tackle Marcus Bowe. He played in place of he played on both sides, left and right. And what I saw from him was nothing but great pass blocking and run blocking as well, Paul. And he's getting a lot of praise in practices, and he's getting a lot of practice. He got a lot of praise in training camp. We're going to get into players that need to step up. But if Marcus Bowe keeps stepping up, you may see somebody starting in week 1, chat. That's my hot take. If Marcus Bowe keeps this up, he may start and never look back. And maybe he becomes who we thought Evan Neal would have been a couple of years ago. So we got him in the 5th round. But, but I loved what I saw Marcus Bowe. Nobody got to the quarterbacks. You talked about the offensive line earlier, Paul, and Marcus Bowe was a big reason. So, another one that stood out to me, and another one of our rookies, Marcus Bowe. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, I totally agree, Kenny. He has a mean streak in him. We wanted him in the draft. We got him. And let me tell you, there was one running play that he followed up. I don't know who was the runner. He followed up looking to go after another defender at the second level. And when I saw that, I said, oh, this guy is a keeper. So if you can play him both left tackle, right tackle, obviously we want our all-pro on at left tackle, Andrew Thomas. But if he forces the Giants that he can play right tackle and they go in and maybe move Illuminor to a guard, how much more stronger is that offensive line? So let's see what we do. Let's see his play continue at a high level, and it's only good things for the offensive line if that happens.
Yeah. Darius Alexander, he's not playing terrible, and it's when you got all these other rookies being outstanding and standing out. An average Darius Alexander doesn't get mentioned, but he's not doing anything wrong. He's just got to be a little better, and he'll be right up there with this special class. I heard today he had a good practice today. He got I think he got a sack on Justin Fields at a joint practice today.
Nice.
So Darius Alexander, keep up the good work. Let's build that up on 2. There is one more offensive guy I want to get before the undrafted guys, Paul, and that's Thomas Fidone.
Yeah.
Fidone had a couple nice catches, a 2-point conversion. That was a heck of a catch from Jameis Winston. This kid's got a chance to make this team, not just a practice squad. This kid's got a chance to be an opening day roster spot. We're going to we got our players that need to step up in a couple seconds, but Fidone steps up. The veteran tight ends that are fighting for spots better watch out. So I like what I'm seeing from Thomas Fidone. He's got nice hands. He's got receiving skills, and let's keep it up. So again, the rookies, excellent debut from most of them. I have nothing bad to say about any of the drafted ones, Paul. So I'll say Thomas Fidone. He had a nice first game. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, agree. This kid has a real good opportunity. We've talked about him in the past in some of the earlier shows, and if he continues to produce, and he probably would have been a higher pick if not for the serious injuries that he had earlier in his college career. But maybe the Giants have a steal in the 7th round for this kid. So let's hope it continues.
Yep. And you mentioned Montrell Washington, and
Yeah.
I want to mention, he had a heck of a pass play. He broke a couple tackles. He did have a couple drops, but they would have been tough catches, tough
Hmm.
plays. I'm not going to hold him against that. He came back with that nice 29-yard play catch after the run was like for like 15 to 17 yards after broke a couple tackles. That was an all-pro play. Very impressive. Going to keep an eye on Bo Collins at practice this week with the joint practices. He didn't have much of an impact on Saturday's game, so
Yeah, I don't think he even played, Kenny.
he didn't play. Okay,
No.
yeah, okay. So I was going to say maybe that's why he didn't play. So keep an eye on that. He's got a chance to make this team. He's been doing pretty damn good at camp and practice. Anybody else I missed, Paul, that you want to mention?
The only other guy that I'm going to mention, probably a guy that he's undrafted free agent outside linebacker who probably would be a core team special teams player, Trace Ford from the University of North Carolina. Actually, had a pretty good game as a third, fourth stringer. He had a fumble recovery, 4 tackles, 1 quarterback hit. So he made his presence felt, and as an undrafted free agent, listen, that's all you want to do. Be a player on a special team, come in as an outside linebacker. Darius Masood did that last year, made the team, even though he was a low draft pick. But when you're noticed like that, hey, coaches realize especially when they watch the films, this kid was all over the place. So Trace Ford, remember that name. He might be a guy that, if doesn't make the team, could be a practice team player.
And you nailed it. You said linebackers. If we have a position that's not deep, it's linebacker. After our 2 starters, you got Darius Musow, and then who else behind that? There's no guarantees. So
Yeah.
Trace Ford keeps this up for the preseason and practices. He may find himself a back end spot, special teamer, a backup. You find these players late if they can contribute on special teams. We mentioned our rookies. Corey Black's hurt right now. I want to see Corey Black. I was excited about him, being a guy that could be that Trey Hawkins type, come out in the late picks, but he needs to get healthy. If you don't get healthy, that's going to open up a spot for one of these guys, maybe to not just make the practice squad, but make the team. So, opening week. So definitely a good name, good call out there, Paul, on Trace Ford. And Mark saying he thought he was from Oklahoma. I think he might be right, Paul.
You know what? You are right, Mark. He is from Oklahoma. I guess I had Bill Belichick on my mind when I mentioned North Carolina. But yes, he definitely is from North Carolina, from Oklahoma. Yeah. Good catch.
Yep, good catch, Mark. All right, Paul. So we talked about our rookies. We got about 15 minutes left. Why don't we talk about our players who need to step up this week in an all-important week 2 preseason for those guys trying to make a team, trying to, not necessarily starters. There's most of your positions are covered, but there are some backups and players that I need to see step up, or somebody may take their spot. And do you want me to go first?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Lead it off.
Guy for me that needs to step up. Tight end. I was high on him, and he had an unfortunate injury a couple of years ago to an eye injury, and he wears the mask now. That's Daniel Bellinger. And I say Daniel Bellinger because we know Theo John, our guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Thought I lost connection there.
Looks like Kenny's freezing a little bit. You there, Kenny?
No.
Okay. So let's talk about Bellinger. He had a pretty good rookie year. He had an eye injury, but came back. But he had a pretty good rookie year. Last year or so, he has not stepped up and become the player that the Giants thought he could. And with Theo Johnson firmly established as our starting tight end, Chris Manhurst is going to be our blocking tight end. And with this kid, Thomas Fidone, hey, Bellinger might be having a bit of a problem making this Giants team. So he's got to step up.
I think I'm back, Paul.
Okay. Yep.
Yep. Well
We
said there
just,
about Bellinger. And I would just add
yeah.
Dulcich. Greg Dulcich is on that team too. So he's talking to Kurt about Greg Dulcich. Kurt loved Greg Dulcich. A lot of injuries, but heck of a receiving tight end. Not a great blocker, but if that's what the Giants' direction they want to go with Chris Manhurts, Bellinger could be in trouble with Fidone and Dulcich. So I need to see Daniel Bellinger step up a little bit. I'm going to keep an eye on his blocking this week when he plays, not just his receiving. That's going to be a guy I keep a close eye on in this week 2 preseason game.
Okay.
You want to go next?
I'll go next. We've talked about this gentleman ad nauseum, but I'll bring his name up one more time. The Giants finally decided Evan Neal could not play outside, so they moved him in to guard. And by all accounts, he started playing very well at guard. Started really, really coming in strong, playing well. But of course, once again, he's injured, and he didn't play in the Buffalo game. He continues to be injured, and you guys have heard me out there talk about using this line. The best ability is availability, and with players like Bo and the availability of Van Roten and Runyon and Jake Kubis as backup, Evan Neal is on very, very thin ice, and at this point, without also giving him that 50-year option, the Giants are this close from, if he doesn't produce in the next couple of games, they may say adios. So he's a guy that better step up and get healthy if he wants to make this New York Giants team.
Well said. Mark has one. I'll go with Mark's. Deonte Banks needs to step up. And we are. I agree, Mark. And I was high on Banks, and I still think he can turn it around. He's got to get that confidence. Maybe he needs an interception to get his confidence, or a big, turnover, fumble or something, because he is getting beat and he's not turning his head around. And that's the biggest thing about not, they're throwing the ball back shoulder catches because he's not going to turn his head. That's all you're going to see them. The opposing teams are going to pick on him left and right. And you're just going to constantly see that. Well, you mentioned Evan Neal. I could see the Giants trying to trade Evan Neal and maybe getting a corner back in return. Not saying you're going to get an all-pro corner for Evan Neal, but maybe you get a veteran guy that the team is looking to unload, and he comes in and pushes Banks and Cordell Flott for that starting job. Gets a little competition there. Because like you said, we got Kubis, we got Bo playing well. We got a lot of players that can fill that guard role if Evan Neal doesn't step up. So I do love that. Our good friend Patrick is saying aloha, boys.
Hey, Patrick. Thank you again, Patrick.
Tons of coffee, Lion Coffee, best stuff on earth. Coffee and tea, everything. Patrick will take care of you. We do have something special coming your way, Patrick. You reached out to us about you collect hats, and we got a couple teams for you. Can't wait to get them to you. Appreciate it always, Patrick, and hope you're doing well out there in the Aloha land, Hawaii. Yeah, so well said there. I'll go Deonte Banks. He's right now he's playing with a chip on his shoulder because Cordell Flott's hurt. So he doesn't have that person right now. So he's got a little chip on his shoulder, but it's time to step up, Banks. Maybe make some plays on Saturday against the Jets. Got another one, Paul?
I want this guy to be one of my favorite players, but again, injury after injury. Jalen Hyatt, Giants traded up 3 years ago to draft this kid. Was the Bolitnikoff winner, is the best receiver coming out of college. Maybe was a one-trick pony, but the Giants, as a team, needed a guy with speed like this. But he just hasn't produced enough. He came in 15 pounds heavier, not losing any speed, and once again he's injured. And with the deep amount of giant receivers in the receiving room, including some of the very good prospects that they signed as undrafted free agents, he needs to step up if he wants to make this team. Because with Russell Wilson, he could be a big part of this offense. But again, if you're injured, you're not showing the Giants anything. And regardless of the fact that you've been on this team for 2 years, you need to produce, because there's somebody on your heels where we've seen some players already during practice that could conceivably take your spot. So Jalen Hyatt has to get back, has to produce, and I want to see him healthy. I want to see him be on the team because I think the Giants can utilize his speed, especially with a guy like Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston for that matter.
Yeah. I want to answer Mark's question in a rapid fire because I'm on website right now. He wanted to know what free agent corners are still available. Asante Samuel Jr., Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, James Bradbury, and Kendall Fuller are the top 5 that stand out to me. So maybe you bring one in to compete and see if they can you can catch lightning in a bottle. You see what happens. So you put a little scare in these guys, and sometimes that's what they need. So they're not going to sugarcoat it. Deonte Banks needs to step up, and great one with Jalen Hyatt. He definitely needs to step up. David Burns is saying Evan Neal's going to do great. Has a great run block as a great run blocker. He can pull from guard to set up screens or runs off tackle. His issue was keeping up with the edge rushers, especially speed rushers. So yeah, good run blocker. I agree. It's why he's got to step up as a guard. He could be a better run blocker, but he needs to step up in our opinions for sure. I got one more, and this one could turn into a competition. And what I mean by step up is I feel if the other guy plays better than he did in week 1 and continues week 2, week 3, and that's our kick returner, Smith-Marsette. Gunnar Olszewski had a nice, sneaky second half last week. He had a touchdown pass from Jameis Winston, and I think he caught 3 or 4 passes besides that, Paul. And we all know he was our kick returner, punt returner a couple years ago. If he can become a wide receiver, you have him on the back end, wide receiver 5 on your team.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes your kick returner. That opens up a spot somewhere else.
Right.
I'm curious to see if Gunnar Olszewski and Smith-Marsette becomes a late battle in camp these last 2 preseason games and training joint practices. I'm curious to see if this turns into a competition because I really liked what I saw out of Gunnar Olszewski.
Nice. That was a good call. Good one. I have one more, and it may not be so much of what he's not doing, but in a similar fashion, the guy behind him might be playing so well, they may be forced to keep the younger player. But Devin Singletary, veteran, good for young players in the in the running back room, but he might be pushed by Turbo Miller, depending on what the Giants want to utilize him for. I mean, obviously a good presence with young running backs, but again, big salary. Maybe if they cut him and use a younger player, maybe they save some money. I don't know how the Giants are gonna think about maybe keeping, instead of 3 running backs, keep 4 if Miller plays himself onto the team. So it'll be interesting to see that if if Singletary is sort of on the bubble now.
I would consider him on the bubble if we see Cam Scatterboo get in some playing time and perform well. I
Hmm.
would say definitely Singletary can be trade bait or a cap casualty. You know, but I would definitely look into that. I like that one a lot. So, yeah, there's some players that I think that we need to see step up, and some good ones, good calls. I think on both of our parts there.
Yeah.
Uh, I you know, a lot of them are players that, veterans that, may get beat out by the younger guy, or that's what it mostly is. The rookies or the younger guys coming in and taking over that role and not looking back. So some veterans have to look out. Now, Singletary, he is a Dable and Shane favorite. So we'll keep an eye on that. Maybe he'll be, kept as like the leader, the veteran of the room, but Turbo Miller keeps up his good work. You got to sometimes put your feelings aside and, go what's best for the team. So going
Hmm.
forward. So curious to see what goes on there. Paul, we got a couple minutes left. Why don't we do this? It's not really off script, but we didn't discuss it. Why don't we do, I got a question for you to wrap up the show. So this week we're facing our crosstown, our neighbors, the New York Jets, the team that we share a stadium with. Uh, what are you looking forward to this week at practice and Saturday? What are you looking forward to seeing most as we continue to maybe leap ahead of where we should be?
Hmm. I'd like to see in the practices, maybe those one-on-one matchups. I know Malik Neighbors is sort of injured, so he won't be there. But maybe Garrett Wilson against Paulson Adebo, or even Russell Wilson against the Jet defense. Because I'd like to see Russ play at least a half this week. I hope they keep them in. The other big matchup I'd like to see is Abdul Carter going against the offensive tackles for the Jets. Of course, they have last year's number 1 pick, Armand Merbu, and this year's number 1 pick, former teammate of Abdul Carter, Fishanu. So that could be an interesting matchup. Old friends meeting in joint practices today and tomorrow. So those would be interesting things that I'd like to see, and of course during the game.
For me, I want to see one thing uh, more than anything else. I want to see Jackson Dart against the Jets' number 1 defense. Even if it's for one series, I want to see him against Sauce Gardner. I want to see him against this number 1 Jets defense, Aaron Glenn, defensive-minded head coach. I want to see how he performs against that defense, and at least 1 or 2 series against their ones. Throw at Sauce Gardner, maybe. I want to see you up against an some elite players on defense. That's what I want to see
Nice,
most.
good
Marcus,
call.
you heard the uh, offense was looking shaky today versus the Jets defense, but our defense looked good. That was today's
Good to hear.
practice. All right, Paul. Final thoughts. We're up on the clock. I see we're on the hour.
Yeah, listen, the when you have a good win, time flies very fast on our 1 hour show. But listen, you can't get any better, in my opinion, of what they did on Saturday afternoon. But that's come and gone. Now we move forward, and hopefully the team can build on that win, go into the stadium on Saturday night, beat the Jets, or at least play well. Uh, I don't really need to see a win in preseason, but if they can play well, and some of the players that we've discussed uh, really come up and do well. That's all I'm looking for. And I think most importantly, no injuries.
Yeah, no injuries is key. And the word of the day for me, what I want to see on Saturday is growth. I want to see our young players continue to grow and not take steps backwards. I want to see steps forward and keep it going, keep that momentum going, because even though it is preseason, a team that had 3 wins last year, if you can get momentum and learning how to win in preseason, it may go right into the regular season. So let's continue that growth. Let's go. Great week 1, Giants. Let's continue week 2 against the Jets, and let's have some fun. We'll be back next Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, hopefully with a lot of good news and a nice fun show for everybody. Until then, we'll see everybody. Have a good week, and we'll see everybody next Monday.
Good night, everyone.